And away we go, episode 1314 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, April 29th, 2026, the day after the one-year anniversary of the deal for the Washington Commanders' next stadium to be on the RFK Stadium land in Washington, D.C., becoming official. Both the team and D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser on Tuesday put out posts on X commemorating the one-year anniversary. 2030 remains the target for the first season for the stadium. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, which as of Tuesday morning was the number 59 football podcast in the country on Apple Podcasts. Number 59 in the country in the wild, ultra-competitive jungle that is football podcasts, of which there are thousands. And I bring this up to say thank you to you. Thank you for listening, downloading, and subscribing. This podcast is true independent media. I could not do this without you, so thank you for being part of the movement that is this podcast. Next segment, a good friend of the podcast and a pioneer in NFL analytics, Brian Burke of ESPN Analytics. He has evaluated the Washington Commanders as being tied for number one in the NFL in value in the 2026 NFL Draft, with value being determined by players' rankings on a consensus big board versus where those players were drafted. It turns out that general manager Adam Peters did some cooking in the 2026 NFL Draft. Brian will discuss that, drafting the best player available versus drafting for need, the rise in wisdom of crowds style analysis of the NFL Draft, linebacker Sonny Styles surprisingly being available to Washington with its number 7 overall pick in the draft, whether positional value for defensive players in the NFL has lost meaning, the viability of Washington stacking quarterbacks in NFL drafts, what to make of Washington's QB2, Marcus Mariota, excelling in air yards in the 2025 regular season, and more. Brian Burke, next segment. And yes, I did say Marcus Mariota, or is it Mariota? I'm not sure.
Mariota.
Exactly. Thank you. NBC's Mike Tirico, Mariota. And also on the show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats, they on Tuesday night totaled a mere 3 hits and 2 walks and got another bad outing from starting pitcher Zach Littell. All of this in an 8-0 loss at the New York Mets. The O's, they on Tuesday evening got more good offensive production from their top 2 catchers, Adley Rutschman and Samuel Basallo, and got a much-needed good outing from starting pitcher Shane Baz. All of this in a 5-3 win over the Houston Astros at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. And I have added something new to how we get feedback. If you want Apple Podcasts, give the podcast a 5-star rating. On the podcast, we'll read whatever you write in writing a review of the podcast. And what you write can be a sports take. In other words, so you don't just have to write about the podcast. I am looking for the 5-star rating more than the gushing compliments in the reviews. Now, if you want to gush away, but the idea here isn't, to just get a bunch of gushing compliments, although I appreciate them so much. The idea here is to get the 5-star ratings as they help out the podcast a lot. But you know what? The compliments help out the podcast a lot, too. And from Tripops on Apple Podcasts writes, Tripops, I've been a fan of Galdi since his days at 980. I've listened to this podcast since episode 1. Still hate the music, but his insights into the Commanders and Nats are at the top of my podcast queue. Keep up the great work, Al. Well, thank you very much for that, Tripops. The intro music for this podcast is bad. There is no doubt about that, but the music is so bad, it is good. From Original CP3 on Apple Podcasts, writes Original CP3, one of the best in the business. Al is always locked in. Thank you very much for that, Original CP3. From Rick on the mic on Apple Podcasts, writes Rick, I love the Al Galdi podcast. Easily one of the few shows I listen to almost every day. Al Galdi gives incredible in-depth analysis on the Washington Commanders. So detailed, it feels like he is inside the building. What really stands out, though, are the transitions, the shift from listener feedback into ads. Is seamless and actually entertaining. On the April 24th episode, after Washington drafted Sonny Styles, he went, well, Washington just drafted Sonny Styles. When it comes to your personal style, you can reset your wardrobe with Quince. Simply brilliant, smooth, clever, and never forced. Thank you very much for that, Rick, on the mic. Very kind. I don't know about brilliant, but I do try to have some fun in doing the ads. Email from Joel Charney on Washington getting Sonny Styles at 7. Writes Joel, hey, Al. So congratulations on the Commanders getting Sonny Styles. The draft fell perfectly for them. Styles is a dynamic talent, so let's forget about positional value and just say that he was the best football player on the board at number 7. Thanks as always for your exhaustive draft coverage. This year, you were rewarded. Thank you for that, Joel. Very surprising that Sonny Styles fell to 7. Not that that was some precipitous fall, but the expectation was that he was going to go in the top 5. Email from Andrew Wiley. Not the Washington offensive lineman, a different Andrew Wiley. This would be Andrew Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y, as opposed to the Commanders' Andrew Wiley, W-Y-L-I-E. Writes the listener, Andrew Wiley. Hi, Al. Big fan of the show. A lot has been made about Adam Peters' preference for players with high RAS scores, but take a look at the 2025 overall PFF grades for the team's picks this year. Styles 88, Williams 80.3, Josephs 87.1, Allen 89.5, Golban 82.6, Kaliak-Manis 88.8. All above 80. Don't tell Sheehan. Thank you very much for the email, Andrew. So the first 3 of Washington's 6 picks in the draft all did do well in Kentley Platty's relative athletic score metric, the RAS or RAS metric. Linebacker Sonny Styles, receiver Antonio Williams, and edge defender Joshua Josephs. But yeah, the last 3 of Washington's 6 picks in the draft all did not excel in RAS. Running back Katron Allen, center/guard Matt Golban, and quarterback Ethan Kaliak-Manis. Washington, for each of its first 2 NFL drafts, with Adam Peters as general manager, the 2024 and 2025 drafts, was number 1 in the NFL in average RAS for players taken in the draft. But Washington, for the 2026 NFL draft, was number 29 out of 32 NFL teams in average RAS for players taken in the draft. And yes, as Andrew outlined in his email, all 6 of the guys with what they did in the 2025 season were well regarded by Pro Football Focus. Never forget this about PFF. And I don't know to what extent Washington is using PFF in draft evaluations, but never forget this about PFF. It, for years, has been working with all 32 NFL teams. As much as some people like to bash PFF and mock PFF and put down PFF, the ultimate scoreboard is that PFF, for years, has been working with all 32 NFL teams. If every team in the NFL is using your product, you are doing something right. Hey, if you would like to grow your business or practice, consider advertising on this podcast. Podcast advertising works and is very affordable. Put the power of the pod to work for you. Get your message out there to thousands of successful people in the Washington, D.C. area. We'd love to have you on board. Email us to see what we can do for you. The email address is thealgaldipodcast@yahoo.com. Look, choosing life insurance is tricky. Heck, life insurance as a topic can be uncomfortable, but Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. You'll get your lowest rate from Ethos' network of trusted carriers. And know this, Ethos has a rating of 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 4,000 reviews. Take 10 minutes today to get covered with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Al Galdi. That's ethos.com/Al Galdi. Ethos.com/Al Galdi. Application times may vary. Rates may vary.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
We've all been there. You're away for the weekend, the big game is on, and you realize you're restricted from watching. Or maybe you're trying to check the latest lines on your betting app, but your local network is blocking the site. These are the ultimate unforced errors. You can prevent this from happening to you with IPVanish. IPVanish is the powerhouse VPN designed to keep you in the game no matter where you are. IPVanish helps you stay connected to your favorite team and streaming services while you travel, but it's not just about watching the game. For the bettors out there, IPVanish provides an extra layer of security and privacy that helps you access your account safely on public Wi-Fi. Plus, IPVanish is lightning fast, so you won't have to worry about lag during those crucial live betting moments. Right now, get a massive discount at IPVanish.com. That's IPVanish.com to get started today. Secure your play and go to IPVanish.com. Advanced methods of evaluating how teams did in the 2026 NFL Draft continue to like what the Washington Commanders did in the draft. Washington for the draft was number one in the NFL in draft capital over expectation, a metric that was devised by a good friend of this podcast, Warren Sharp of Sharp Football Analysis. A draft capital over expectation has to do with the expected capital used on a prospect versus the actual capital used on a prospect. Washington for the draft was number four in the NFL in average next-gen stat score in terms of each team's top 7 players taken in the draft. Washington was number 13 out of 32 NFL teams in GPA for the 2026 NFL Draft as computed by Renee Bugner, who computes a GPA for each team for each NFL Draft based on the draft grades from major experts. So his GPAs for the 2026 NFL Draft are based on 24 different evaluations. And our upcoming guest, Brian Burke of ESPN Analytics, he has ranked Washington as being tied for number one in the NFL in value in the 2026 NFL Draft, with value being determined by players' rankings on a consensus big board versus where those players were drafted. And so I'm very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast, Brian Burke of ESPN Analytics. Brian, a true original gangsta, a true OG in the world of football analytics. He founded the website Advanced Football Analytics in 2007. He has created / pioneered a number of stats that now are common in football analytics: air yards, expected points added or EPA, win rates, win probability, ESPN's total QBR. And Brian is maybe most famous for advocating that NFL teams should be going for it on fourth downs far more often than teams were going for it on fourth downs years ago, long before going for it on fourth down became popular. Brian was in the United States Navy for 15 years, and as I learned from his bio from ESPN, he spent most of those 15 years as an FA-18 carrier pilot, flew numerous combat missions, and was awarded the Air Medal, the Navy Commendation Medal, and numerous other personal and unit commendations. He's from Baltimore, now resides in Virginia. You can follow Brian on X at @BBurkeESPN. Hey, Brian, how are you?
I am good. You found my bio online, so I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
I did find the bio. We over the years have talked plenty of times, but we have never talked about your career in the Navy. You were a high-level pilot. Do you miss flying, or are you still flying in some way?
No, I don't. Well, what has replaced flying is I have a track car. I drive at the track. I wouldn't say I'm a race car driver quite yet, but that's sort of my source of adrenaline these days. I'm still very connected to naval aviation because my son just got winged last year, and he is a naval aviator. He's down in Jacksonville flying a plane called the P-8. So still plugged in. It's in our blood, in our genes.
Outstanding. A good trait to pass down. All right, so you did grades for teams in the 2026 NFL Draft. I mentioned Washington, per your evaluation, being tied for number one in the NFL in value in the draft. Your overall grade for Washington, though, was not as kind. Explain if you would.
I thought you might ask. C minus, so 72 grade. They didn't have a second round pick. That's not counted against them. That would have been counted against them maybe the year before. But they didn't move up or down really. Didn't make any trades of note. So draft capital management is a big component. So they're squarely average in that 75. Fulfilling needs, they get an F. I would forgive that though personally, but we have to kind of one size fits all kind of approach to all 32 teams in all drafts. But like we talked about this season, I would forgive a lot of that. But they did not hit their needs. I would say this though, like maybe linebacker wasn't like this big sore spot need, but defense definitely is what they need. And so I would check that box for them there. They did better than any other team in terms of like capturing falling players. So, and that's what the analysis by Sharp that you mentioned was doing. So I made a note here. So, Styles was taken 7th. He was ranked 5th. Antonio Williams taken 71st, ranked 66th. So they're always taking a player that's kind of falling down to them. And then it gets even better. They get the 77th ranked player. This is according to this big consensus that I think is Arif Hassan put together. Joshua Joseph's taken 147th, ranked 77th, and it just goes on and on all the way through the 6th round. The only exception is the 7th round quarterback they took, who is kind of a unknown.
So while I say what I'm about to say as a Washington fan, Washington, per your evaluation, getting an A and being tied for number 1 in the NFL in value in the draft matters a lot more to me than Washington, per your evaluation, ranking poorly in fulfilling needs. I think that drafting for need is the wrong way to do the NFL draft. I think that drafting for value, i.e. drafting the best player available, is the right way to do the NFL draft. But that's my take. What do you think?
I agree in general. There's exceptions and nuance. So yeah, you're a Washington fan. I'm a Baltimore fan. They went need, so they were picking 14th and they're the 20th best player on the board is this guard from Penn State. And that just solves so many problems for them right away. They had a huge problem on the interior line, vacancies. They lost their center. So that just solves a huge problem for them instantly. So there's a trade-off. You don't want to reach too far. Like in my grading, if you anything within like 8 spots, I'm not going to count against you.
The work that you have done for ESPN Analytics regarding the 2026 NFL Draft, so much of that work is based on this idea of wisdom of crowds. And this idea also is featured in the aforementioned work of Warren Sharp and Renee Bugner. And the idea to me makes total sense because when it comes to the NFL Draft, we're all ignorant, okay? And when I say we, I'm including teams like fans, media members, and teams are wrong about players in the draft all of the time. And so the idea with wisdom of crowds is if we pool our ignorance, perhaps we wind up a little less ignorant. And there, in recent years, has been a rise in wisdom of crowds style analysis of the NFL Draft. What do you make of that?
Yes. So I think just some philosophy up front. You can grade a draft the day after. Like a lot of people say, well, you have to wait until these players develop to find out. So that's a separate question. So the draft is really a 2-stage process. There's an evaluation process in terms of projecting the players' kind of outcomes in the pros. And then there's a decision stage in terms of where you trade your picks, which obviously which player, given the evaluations that exist, which players are you taking, which positions are you taking, how far off the consensus you are. So I think you can grade drafts. I do my own. We have the draft simulator, and I added a grading feature to it this year. And I thought, well, why not just apply it to the actual draft too? So kind of gives you an analytical kind of perspective on a grade. So yeah, I think you can, but you have to separate the evaluation part from the decision-making part. And you can analyze the decision-making part the day after. I think the consensus stuff, the wisdom of crowd stuff makes a lot of sense to me, for the exact reasons you just said. Like even the teams are way off. Like the number one fundamental thing to start thinking about the NFL draft is that the teams are way too certain on their projections and their evaluations of players. The chance that the number, like the second linebacker taken in the draft, will outperform the third linebacker taken in the draft is minuscule. It's like 50x%, under 55% of the time. Or the chance the second linebacker outperforms the fifth linebacker isn't really that high either. So there's lots of uncertainty, lots of randomness involved. So that's the fundamental thing to start with. So a consensus is going to be very probably more accurate and more sound than any one individual or any one team's individual big board. So I'm a big believer in the consensus approach.
You for ESPN Analytics played a big-time role in developing the NFL Draft Predictor, which projected where prospects would be taken. The NFL Draft Predictor had Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles with a less than 20% chance of being available at 7, and yet, of course, Washington this past Thursday night got him at 7. What goes into the NFL Draft Predictor, and how surprised should we be that Styles was available at 7?
Yeah, I think the predictor was right in consensus, where the thinking was he would go at 5 to the Giants, I believe. And so what the predictor does is takes big board rankings and starts off with that, and then adds mock drafts to it. And I try to curate which mocks I'm using. It's a very small select few. Obviously a couple from ESPN, but then a couple others as well. And then uses a bunch of fancy math to basically come up with the chances that each player will be taken at each pick. And I developed this many years ago as a tool for teams to know where they would have to trade to if they had a specific player in mind. Maybe if Washington really wanted Sonny Styles, they would have to go to 4, right? Something like that. So that's how the predictor works. And yeah, it tells you it was, I think, 15% or something that Styles would still be available at 7.
The view of the draft's first round going into it was that it was especially unpredictable. Did you find that to be the case with how the first round played out?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really unusual draft in a lot of ways. I would say, yeah, it was less predictable than most. A bunch of reasons for that. I think the best players were all at positions that were sort of the non-premium positions outside of the number 1 pick. Having a running back go third. The linebacker, you had off-ball linebackers, kind of hybrid guys. You even had a tight end there in the meat of the first round. So you had these non-premium positions. And so you just, the normal calculus, the normal logic, the way the draft flows was very different. Lack of quarterbacks too, like outside of number 1, you had the big wild card there with Ty Simpson, but normally you have 4 or 5 guys kind of in the top 10 that might be taken, and which teams need quarterbacks. So, yeah.
Due to this draft being one in which so many of the perceived to be best players play non-premium positions, an idea going into the draft was that the notion of premium positions versus non-premium positions shouldn't matter so much. Did you agree with that?
Yeah, the top half of the first round, I would give maximum forgiveness. Maybe not the running back pick. I don't think running backs are they're not the needle movers. So even Love is going to be a great running back, no doubt about it. But is he going to move the needle for the Cardinals? Probably not until they fix an offensive. Look what happened with Saquon Barkley. He didn't really do anything for the Giants. Put up some great numbers, fantasy production, all that stuff, but didn't really move the needle for them in terms of winning. And then he goes to a team that does have a highly functioning offense, great offensive line, and he just tears up the league. So yeah, running backs, but I would forgive for everyone else, off-ball linebackers, tight ends, safeties. Like I would give maximum forgiveness this year.
Much more with Brian Burke in moments, but if you have a case, contact Chris Nace, the Nace Law Group. Accident and injury lawyers, it will fight for you and win for you. Lead attorney Chris Nace is a big Washington Commanders fan and big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. So just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611. or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. We're talking with Brian Burke of ESPN Analytics. As mentioned, you are a pioneer in NFL analytics. Premium positions versus non-premium positions in the NFL. That idea came from who/where?
I don't know. I mean, it's been a long-standing kind of white whale, holy grail of kind of analytics to try to put a number on each position. And I think it sort of converged. Some people try to do it numerically. Some people do it sort of qualitatively, just following the contract values, for example. Or you can use the draft and see where certain positions fall in the draft compared to others. And then there's some other things too, more advanced things, like you try to put an individual value on a player within a play and say, oh, okay, this play was plus 1.5 EPA, and I'm going to divvy up that credit among all the players on the field, which I'm not a big fan of doing that, but that's where it comes from.
Something that I've been wondering is if in the current NFL, premium positions versus non-premium positions don't matter so much on defense, because there now is a blurring of the lines between positions. You know, cornerbacks play safety, safeties play cornerback, linebackers play safety, safeties play linebacker, linebackers play edge defenders play interior defensive lineman, interior defensive linemen play edge defender, etc. A defensive player's listed position isn't literally the position he always plays. Has positional value for defensive players in the NFL lost meaning?
Yeah, it's kind of like the NBA now, right? With the positionless kind of concept. I think there's definitely some truth to that. For us limited, the Kyle Hamilton kind of safety where he can play nickelback, he can play safety, he can play linebacker. That unlocks a lot of opportunities, a lot of potential for defensive coordinators to do certain things they couldn't otherwise do. You can let maybe Sonny Styles cover a receiving tight end, like a sort of hybrid wide receiver tight end type, and he'll be able to do that. And so now you have so much more flexibility with the rest of the defense. So yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a trend.
Washington taking Rutgers quarterback Ethan Kaliak-Manis in the 7th round, while already being set at QB1 with Jaden Daniels and already being set at QB2 with Marcus Mariota, but not necessarily being set at QB3 with Sam Hartman, brought to my mind what the Green Bay Packers did when Ron Wolf was running their football operations. Ron Wolf was the Packers' executive vice president and general manager November 1991 to June 2001. He presided over 10 NFL drafts for the Packers, 1992 through 2001. The Packers took a quarterback in 7 of those 10 drafts, and most of this was happening as the Packers had a true franchise quarterback in Brett Favre. Wolf was ahead of his time in recognizing the quarterback position being so much more important than any other position, but this idea of a head of football ops consistently drafting quarterbacks, even if set at QB1, what do you think about that philosophy in today's NFL?
I like it, and I'll tell you why. Going back to the position value question. What's the second most, I ask people this all the time. What's the second most important position on a football team? And you usually get like edge rusher, wide receiver, cornerback, something like that, left tackle. And the answer is the backup quarterback. But Washington saw this firsthand last year. They had a really good backup quarterback, and it didn't save the season, didn't get them in the playoffs, but kept them competitive. It's the backup quarterback because chances are you're gonna need a few starts from him. It's pretty rare, not maybe rare, but it's not super usual that the starting quarterback makes it through all 17 games. And the quarterback position itself is so important. It's probably half of the importance of the entire offense, or more. So backup quarterback is absolutely critical to a team's fortunes. It's not like you can't expect your backup to be like kind of have a Foles magical run kind of thing, but he can kind of split the difference for you. I think Lamar was out for a couple games, 2-3 games at least this past season, and the backups kind of split those, 3, 1 and 2 or 2 and 2 or something like that kind of keeps you in the hunt, and your season's not automatically ruined.
Given the great innovative work that you did with air yards, I wanted to ask you about Marcus Mariota. Mariota in the 2025 regular season, 11 games, including 8 starts. He, per the NFL's Next Gen Stats, had an average intended air yards of 10.2, ranking number 1 out of 42 NFL quarterbacks, each with at least 135 pass attempts. He, per the NFL's Next Gen Stats, had an average completed air yards of 7.4, ranking tied for number 2 out of 42 NFL quarterbacks, each with at least 135 pass attempts. He was an aggressive thrower of the football downfield, though that had not necessarily been his history. A quarterback excelling in air yard stats. Have you found that to be more about the quarterback, the offense, or just game-specific circumstances?
Yeah, he's a scrambler. So my first thought goes back to Michael Vick, who had just monstrous air yard averages, and the reason was he just never checked down to the running back, which sometimes gives you negative air yards, and he's probably not. It's also kind of a system dependent. So if you're not a screen-based team, then you're going to have a higher air yards kind of thing. So I think it's a combination of things. He's probably a combination of the scheme, the fact that he's willing to take off with the ball rather than just kind of dump it off to the running back on 3rd and 7 for a 3-yard gain. So I think he's experienced, a smart player too. So I think he's probably appropriately aggressive, pushing the ball downfield.
Generally speaking, you want your quarterback to rate highly in air yard stats. Is that right?
Yeah, it depends on the makeup of the team, but you would generally prefer it. Short air yard teams tend to be teams that can't protect the quarterback for very long. And so they have to get rid of the ball very quickly, and they can't get it downfield. So it's generally a signal of a good system.
The Washington Commanders this past Sunday evening announced that legendary former Washington Redskins linebacker Monty Coleman had died. He was 68. He was taken by the Skins in the 11th round of the 1979 NFL draft out of the University of Central Arkansas. I think that we know the answer to what I'm about to ask you, but I'm interested in what you have to say about this. Why is it that so many good NFL players from back in the day were drafted so deep into NFL drafts?
I don't know for sure. My best theory I would submit is that the modern scouting industry is completely unlike it was. I mean, in terms of the information available, the tape, the video, the travel you can do, just the way you can share information. I think there's a convergence of opinion, just like we talked about the consensus big boards, right? There is this convergence of opinion, whereas before it was just maybe, I think back then, right, there were like 28 teams or 30 teams, just sort of all shooting from the hip in terms of what they thought of certain players. It's been made into a science as much as it can since then. But yeah, there's still some undrafted free agents that still make a big impact, and they probably would have been, one of those 11th rounders you mentioned.
It's funny, as much as we talk about teams not being as good at the NFL draft as they should be, it does seem like teams overall are better at the draft now as compared to yesteryear.
Probably. I haven't done like a longitudinal study like across the eras or anything, but I would not disagree.
Do you in your mind have an idea of what a good hit rate for a team in an NFL draft is? 50%, higher, lower?
Yeah, in terms of the players they pick, yeah, you want, yeah, probably 50%. I haven't really thought about what an actual number would be but I would submit this is that these players pan out and fulfill the potential that we all think they should have much less often than we think. It's when you just go back and look at previous years, just look at whatever the 2020 draft and look at those players. And at the time, you're like, oh, all these guys are going to be great coming out of the first round. And you go back and you're like, no, this guy just washed out. This guy never, took root. This guy got hurt, was never the same again. This guy, yeah, he's in the league, but he's, in a rotation or second string or something like that. So it is astonishing. We sort of have this amnesia that we forget going into every draft. We forget just how uncommon it is to really, really hit.
And further complicating the issue is, what is a hit? Like, define your terms. What exactly does being a hit mean? And that would seem to depend on where a player is drafted.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you are in the draft. Like, the higher you're taken, the more is expected. So that becomes the benchmark. So for Sonny Styles, he's going to have to be really, really good for people to say he was a hit. But if you were taken at the bottom of the first round and he just became a starter, just became a guy you could start, and he wasn't a big liability, and he was number one on the depth chart for most of the year, that would be a hit. Like, teams would be really happy with that. So that they're not always swinging for the fences and trying to get like this, game changer. Sometimes if he just mitigates a weakness or gives you more flexibility in scheme, that's a win.
And we with first round picks now do have a tell from teams regarding whether picks are hits or misses, because if the team doesn't exercise the 5th-year option for a first round pick and doesn't sign the pick to a contract extension, that right there tells you that the guy was a miss. Follow the money.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great bellwether. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but the 5th, that's one of those things that genuinely shocks people. Like the 5th-year option pickup rate is, you would think it's like 90% or something, but it's more like 50.
Yeah, a lot lower than people think. But like the saying in basketball, ball don't lie. We in the NFL have contracts don't lie. What a team does contractually with a player says a lot.
Yeah, and there's some options that teams pick up that they probably shouldn't. Daniel Jones or, players like that.
Yeah, but by and large, it feels like it's telling you something, what the team does.
Oh, absolutely.
Final question. We in baseball for a long time now have had wins above replacement WAR, and there are multiple versions of WAR in baseball. ESPN Analytics has developed a WAR for NBA players. Pro Football Focus has developed a WAR for NFL players, but PFF WAR has not caught on all that much and hasn't been promoted by PFF all that much. What about ESPN Analytics developing a WAR for NFL players? How realistic, how doable is that?
We've done similar things. We had a college player impact rating thing that was sponsored by PlayStation for a number of years, and it was kind of like this big adjusted plus minus model, the way like for basketball and hockey they use, and it works fairly well for those sports. But football is a fundamentally different sport than pretty much all the others. Kind of baseball is kind of the ultimate linear sport, let's say, like things just happen in sequence, and there's like a one-on-one matchup between pitcher and batter just over and over and over and over. And 99% of baseball can be analyzed that way. So you can isolate the contribution of a certain player, and then you can aggregate the contributions of the team of the players on the roster into a team, and so WAR makes a lot of sense for baseball. Now in football, if you have, so like in baseball, if you have Cal Ripken, who's a 10, and Eddie Murray, who's a 10, I'm dating us here, but you get a 20. Right? They just add up because Cal bats third, Eddie bats fourth, and then, but if you have like Joe Montana, right, and Jerry Rice, and they're both a 10, in football, you get 100. There's an interaction term between them. There's 22 players on the field, which means there are 21 factorial interactions among all of the different combinations of players you can have. And so when you go to like linearly additivity, like wise, like add up player value to add up to like a team value, it just it doesn't work. So I think that's a kind of fatal flaw in the way some of these kind of football WAR systems operate, is they're taking a baseball cookie cutter and applying it to a sport where it's just fundamentally doesn't make any sense.
Brian Burke of ESPN Analytics. Brian, thank you. All the best.
Yeah, thanks. Anytime.
All right. Whatever big event that you're planning, a wedding, a party, whatever, consider using a great sponsor of this podcast, cateringbyuptown.com. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Catering by Uptown is outstanding. It is a family business. It is run by the Pereiras, who are great Washington Commanders fans. Catering by Uptown is committed to meeting your every need with elegance and precision. Catering by Uptown takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. And Catering by Uptown specialty is weddings. Get excellent service at an affordable price. In fact, if you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you could check out Catering by Uptown's premier wedding venues. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. So we entered Tuesday with the New York Mets and Philadelphia Phillies as the two worst teams in MLB's 2026 regular season. Each team was 9-19. The Phillies, they on Tuesday morning announced having fired manager Rob Thomson and having promoted bench coach Don Mattingly to interim manager. But the Mets, they on Tuesday night ripped our Washington Nationals, an 8-0 loss for the Nats at the Mets on Tuesday night in Game 1 of a 3-game series. This was a game in which the Nats allowed 7 runs in the bottom of the fourth. The Nats in this regular season now are 13-17. The Mets in this regular season now are 10-19, still tied with the Phillies for the worst record in the majors. So the Phillies beat the San Francisco Giants 7-0 on Tuesday evening. The Nats in this 8-0 loss at the Mets on Tuesday night, really bad offensively. No runs, just 3 hits, all of which were singles, just 2 walks, 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position, 11 strikeouts. Mets starting pitcher Clay Holmes tossed 6 scoreless innings with 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk. The Nats offense has cooled off a bit, a total of just 14 runs over the last 5 games. But nothing in this game stood out more from a Nats perspective than starting pitcher Zach Littell having another wretched outing. Littell in this 8-0 loss at the Mets on Tuesday night, really bad. 8 runs, 4 earned in 3 2/3 innings. He gave up 5 hits, which were 2 home runs and 3 singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded 1 strikeout. He threw 84 pitches, just 46 strikes versus 38 balls. So Littell in the bottom of the first allowed a run as he gave up a leadoff first pitch opposite field homer by Bo Bichette to right field for a 1-0 Mets lead. And Littell in the bottom of the fourth allowed 7 runs, only 3 of which were earned thanks to a one-out fielding error by third baseman Jorbit Bibas, who whiffed in his attempt at fielding a one-out bases-loaded chopper by Marcus Semien. 2 runs scored on the play, but Littell in that Mets 7-run fourth gave up a home run and 3 singles and issued 2 walks, and the homer was a 2-out opposite field 2-run homer by ex-Nat Juan Soto to left center field for an 8-0 Mets lead. And so Zach Littell's stats in this regular season now are even worse. 6 games, including 5 starts, ERA of 7.85, whip of 1.74, a strikeouts per 9 innings of just 5.02. He is not striking people out. Not that he has been some big-time strikeout pitcher, but still, a strikeouts per 9 innings of just 5.02 in today's MLB is puny. I mean, consider this. Littell has totaled just 16 strikeouts versus allowing 13 home runs. He has nearly as many home runs allowed as he has strikeouts. That's hard to do. This was Nats manager Blake Butera during his postgame session with reporters on Tuesday night on the 7-run fourth for Zach Littell, and then you'll hear multiple follow-up exchanges.
Yeah, just too much traffic on. I know we had a couple walks that inning, and then bases loaded. We get the ground ball, and Vivas, who's played a tremendous third base for us, makes that error in that big situation, and they just seem to pile it on from there pretty quickly.
Is that a case of, you think, him looking up to try to make the throw before he had the ball, or what do you think happened?
No, I think it was just an in-between hop. It was a chopper. He came to get it, which was the right thing. I think he was just a little bit late getting his glove there, and the ball just got under it. I know he was probably trying to step on third and go to first in his head. I'm sure he was thinking about that when he approached the ball too. It's not an easy play, so that could have factored into it. Just uncharacteristic mistake over there.
Do you think that affected Littell at all in the mound, or did you see something before that kind of sensed he was maybe trending in the wrong direction?
No, I mean, the first 3 innings, I thought he threw the ball really well. I know he got ambushed in that first pitch of the game where, Bichette takes him out, but I thought he threw the ball really well going into the 4th inning. And then I think, he gets the first out in the 4th, and then it was like a base hit, and then the back-to-back walks were probably the biggest thing there. And then he gets his ground ball, with 1 out, bases loaded, and that was just a huge unfortunate spot right there. And then, it seemed like after that, they weren't off any barrels.
Well, the Nats on March 10th announced having signed Zach Littell as a free agent to a 1-year contract with a mutual option for the 2027 season. The contract, per reports, features $3 million for the 2026 season and then a mutual option of $12 million for the 2027 season with a $4 million buyout. So he's guaranteed $7 million. This is his age 30 season. He, for the Tampa Bay Rays and Cincinnati Reds over the last 2 regular seasons, was good, but he right now is really struggling. It does, though, appear as if the Nats are sticking with him in their rotation. You'd like to think that the team, with its new analytics-based process, can fix the guy. Like I said, he, for the Rays and Reds over the last 2 regular seasons, was good, at least 29 starts in each of the 2024 and 2025 regular seasons. He, during that stretch, accumulated 6.0 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference, so registered an ERA of 3.73. But we right now are not seeing that guy. The biggest positive for the Nats in this 8-0 loss at the Mets on Tuesday night was the relief pitching. 2 Nats relievers combined for 4 1/3 scoreless innings. Brad Lord, 2 1/3 scoreless innings. Andre Granillo, 2 scoreless and hitless innings. Game 2 for the Nats at the Mets Wednesday night at 7:10. Cade Cavalli will be the Nats starting pitcher. Look, choosing life insurance is tricky. Heck, life insurance as a topic can be uncomfortable, but Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. You'll get your lowest rate from Ethos' network of trusted carriers. And know this, Ethos has a rating of 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 4,000 reviews. Take 10 minutes today to get covered with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Al Galdi. That's ethos.com/Al Galdi. Ethos.com/Al Galdi. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Did you happen to see what the greatest pitcher in Baltimore Orioles franchise history, Masson Orioles analyst Jim Palmer, a member of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, said late night on Sunday night on X in response to a question regarding whether the 2026 Orioles are a good team? Quote, "Only if you read the newspapers and positive comments from the Oriole players about clubhouse chemistry. Love the belief that they are a good team, but reality is what your record is. New players, new manager, coaches, lots of injuries, but let's bottom line it. They need to be more consistent in all facets of the game and outscore their opponents, hoping it happens soon." End quote. Some brutal truth from the great Jim Palmer. Well, the O's on Tuesday evening did get a win, a 5-3 win over the Houston Astros at Oriole Park at Camden Yards in Game 1 of a 3-game series. The O's in MLB's 2026 regular season now are 14-15. The Astros in this regular season now are an American League worst 11-19. Good offense for the O's in this game. 5 runs, 9 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles and 6 singles, 2 walks, 3 for 7 with runners in scoring position. The homer was by Pete Alonso. He is the Orioles starting first baseman and number 4 batter, went 1 for 4 with a 2-run homer. Alonso in the Orioles 2-run fifth had a 2-out opposite field, 2-run homer to right field for a 4-1 Orioles lead. We are still waiting on him to truly get going. Pete Alonso for this regular season now has an OPS of just .659. But 2 guys who continue to be so good for the O's are their top 2 catchers, Adley Rutschman and Samuel Basallo. Adley Rutschman as the Orioles starting catcher and number 3 batter went 2 for 4 with 2 RBI singles. He for this regular season now has an OPS of 1,018. Samuel Basallo, he is the Orioles starting DH and number 5 batter, went 2 for 4 with an RBI double and a single. He for this regular season now has an OPS of 801. He for this month of April now has an OPS of 892. But maybe the biggest bright spot for the O's in this 5-3 win over the Astros at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Tuesday evening was starting pitcher Shane Baz. He had not been doing well. He in this game did do well. He allowed 1 run in 5 2/3 innings with 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up 6 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 4 singles. He threw a lot of pitches, but also a lot of strikes. 98 pitches, 65 strikes, just 33 balls. So Baz in the top of the 5th allowed a run. Gave up a 1-out opposite field solo homer by Bryce Matthews to right field to cut the Orioles' lead to 2-1, but he otherwise was good, and the O's need him to be good. The O's this past December 19th announced having traded 4 prospects and a draft pick to the Tampa Bay Rays for Baz. The O's on March 27th announced having agreed with Baz on a 5-year contract for the 2026 through 2030 seasons. He had been under team control through the 2028 season. The contract is a 5-year contract, reportedly worth $68 million, most money in a contract given by the team to a pitcher in franchise history. The Baz who the O's got on Tuesday evening is the Baz they need. Shane Baz in this regular season, 6 games, all starts, ERA of 4.50, whip of 1.50. And the Orioles relief pitching in this 5-3 win over the Astros at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Tuesday evening was mixed. 4 Orioles relievers combined to allow 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings. Rico Garcia faced 1 batter and got 1 out, which was a swinging strikeout of Dustin Harris with runners on first and second, 2 outs, and the O's holding a 4-1 lead in the top of the 6th. Andrew Kittredge tossed a scoreless top of the 7th with 3 swinging strikeouts, despite beginning the inning by giving up a single and a double and then issuing a 1-out intentional walk. Anthony Nunez struggled. He in the top of the 8th allowed 2 runs on a leadoff double, a 1-out RBI triple, and a 2-out RBI single. He did generate 2 swinging strikeouts, but Ryan Helsley tossed a perfect top of the 9th for the save. Game 2 for the O's against the Astros at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, Wednesday evening at 6:35. Chris Bassett will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now, but there's more to come. Thursday's show, episode 1315, will provide you with more on the Washington Commanders. Also on Thursday's show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats are at the New York Mets Wednesday night at 7:10 for Game 2 of a 3-game series. The O's are home to the Houston Astros Wednesday evening at 6:35 for Game 2 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
Mariota.